My parents forced me to pay rent to stay home, so I bought the house and evicted them. I, 28, come from a family that's always favored my younger brother, Ryan, 26. Growing up, I was the responsible one who did chores, got good grades, and stayed out of trouble. Ryan, on the other hand, was the fun sibling who could do no wrong. My parents doted on him while I got the short end of the stick, time and time again. Despite this, I worked hard, got into a good university, and landed a decent job as a software developer. Meanwhile, Ryan dropped out of community college, partied nonstop, and went through a series of low-paying jobs. My parents never held him accountable for anything. He lived rent-free at home and even borrowed money from them, which he never paid back. But the moment I graduated and moved back home to save some money, my parents told me I'd have to start paying rent. At first, I didn't mind. I figured it was only fair. But then they hit me with the amount, $1,200 a month. Mind you, I was sleeping in the same tiny childhood bedroom I'd had since I was a kid. Meanwhile, Ryan wasn't contributing a single cent and got to live there rent-free. I brought this up, and they brushed me off. Ryan needs time to figure things out, they said. You've always been the responsible one, and it's only right that you help out. That stung. But I swallowed my pride and paid the rent, while quietly saving as much as I could. I kept telling myself it was temporary, and that I'd move out as soon as I had enough for a down payment on my own place. Things came to a head a year later. I'd saved a decent amount, but my parents suddenly raised my rent to $1,500 a month. Their excuse? Inflation and rising costs. I was furious. I pointed out that Ryan still wasn't paying a dime, and they got defensive. He's going through a tough time, they said, as if I wasn't also working 50-hour weeks and trying to build a future for myself. That's when I decided I was done playing by their rules. If they wanted to treat me like a tenant, fine, I'd act like one. I started looking for houses. It wasn't easy, but after a few months, I found a small 3-bedroom home not far from work. It was perfect for me, and more importantly, it was affordable. I closed on it and gave my parents my 30-day notice. They were shocked. "Where are you going to live?" my mom asked. I told her I'd bought a house. Instead of being happy for me, she looked offended. "You didn't even tell us? After all we've done for you?" That was rich, considering they'd squeezed me dry for over a year while letting Ryan freeload. I moved out the next month and life was great, at least for a while. But the peace didn't last. About 6 months later, Ryan got fired from his latest job and couldn't afford his car payments. My parents, who were already struggling financially, started falling behind on their mortgage. They called me, asking for a small loan to help with their bills. I knew better. A small loan from me would never be repaid. So I politely declined. My mom tried to guilt-trip me, saying, "Family helps family." I reminded her that family also treats each other fairly, and they hadn't done that with me. Then came the bombshell. My parents were putting their house on the market because they couldn't keep up with the payments. They were panicked and didn't know where they were going to live. That's when an idea hit me. I made them an offer to buy their house. At first, they were thrilled. But when they saw the price I was offering, just enough to cover their outstanding mortgage, they were furious. "You're trying to take advantage of us," my dad yelled. I calmly reminded him that this was a business deal, not charity, and they could take it or leave it. After a few weeks of stalling, they finally agreed. I closed on the house, and just like that, I became their landlord. For the first few months, things were fine. They paid rent on time, and I stayed out of their way. But then the late payments started. At first, it was only a few days late. Then it became weeks. I tried to be patient, but after 3 months of missed payments, I had enough. I served them an eviction notice. They were livid. My mom called me crying, begging me to reconsider. Ryan accused me of destroying the family, but I held firm. They had treated me like a tenant when it suited them, and now the tables had turned. Eventually, they moved into a small apartment, and Ryan had to crash on their couch. Meanwhile, I rented out their old house to a nice family who always paid on time. Do I feel bad about what happened? Maybe a little, but at the end of the day, they made their choices and I made mine. They taught me that family helps family, unless you're me apparently. So, Reddit, AITA for evicting my own parents?